We lived in what some people call in the country, right outside the city limits. It's about 3 miles.
Okay.
And my sister Edna attended Fairview from day number one, I guess, but it was not in the, well, I'll let her tell you about that part. But I wasn't fortunate enough to attend Fairview, so instead I was able to go to Fairview Baby School, I guess you would call East Brown. And so the experience at East Brown was like none other. We had some of the best teachers. One of the teachers that I remember so well was Marguerite Parrish. She was my second grade teacher, and there was just something not only about Mrs. Parrish that we all admired, but it was like she had this sense of, how can I put it? I'm trying to find the words. She made us all feel like whatever we wanted to achieve, then we could do it.
Wow.
And she didn't come right out and say it,
But you could sense that in her spirit.
there you go. You could sense it in her spirit, and she was always doing little things, to make all the students feel special. And of course, that's where I met my best friend, Joyce Purdue, and we have some stories to tell.
Okay, let's go back to the family. I need to know a little bit about mom, dad, sisters, brothers,
Okay.
and
I have a mom and dad, Gladys and Otis Washington. My dad attended the elementary school out in Chucktown. My mother was a Hosley. She lived in town, so she attended Fairview. And one thing that I always remember about her and Fairview is her love of reading. And she would read anything. I mean, they just instill her to learn about things, to learn about places. One way you could do that if you weren't able to afford traveling is to read. And that's one thing that I continued doing. I love to read. My mom would tell us that when she was going to Fairview, I think she only went to the 8th grade at that time. But her professor had wanted her to go on to Rome to get further education so she could become a teacher. And of course, she fell in love with our dad. And so that dream, but she always talked to us about it. And I think that's one of the reasons I became a teacher.
great. Now
Okay.
you've got your sister, so
Yeah,
brother,
Okay.
sisters, any more brothers?
Yes, there were a family of 10. There were 4 boys, 6 girls. Edna is our oldest sister, and she looks after us. Just from hearing her share some of the things she remembered about Fairview, it was just like, really? So I'm gonna hush talking and let her tell you some stuff that she may remember about Fairview.
Okay, give me your other sisters and brothers other than Glenda and Larry.
Um, the names.
Mm-hmm.
That's the
You said Mary.
Mary and Bertha and
Martha.
Martha, and the other ones is deceived.
Okay. So Mary, Martha, Bertha, Glenda, Edna, Larry,
And Eddie.
and Eddie. Oh, that's
And
right,
the-
Eddie. I'm sorry.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we have 2 brothers that are deceased and 1 sister. So out of 10 of us, there are 7 of us still living.
Oh, what a blessing.
Mm-hmm. And the ages range from the baby in the family is 67, and my sister has been so blessed this October, she'll turn 90.
Bless you. Okay, now, so let's deal with that mind. Tell us some of the things that you shared with your younger sister that she didn't know about Fairview.
Oh, I told her about the teachers. One of them, Miss Sam was her teacher. She remembers that Bertha. She remembered that she said Miss Sam's was. She wanted me to do this, and she just kept her busy all the time because she talked a lot.
Okay.
And
His sister talked a lot.
No, my Bertha.
Bertha,
yeah.
okay, okay.
And Miss Samuels, what I find so interesting is, my older sisters and brothers had Miss Josie Sam as their first grade teacher. And many years later, when I went to E.S. Brown, I had Miss Josie Sams as my first grade teacher.
That's a blessing.
Isn't that something?
Yes, yes.
And Miss Ware was my first teacher.
She was your-
Margaret.
Margaret Ware. Oh, okay, I thought it was
Okay.
Miss Sams.
And I enjoyed her, and she was so sweet. Cause I didn't get in trouble. I mean, I didn't talk that much and everything. And
That's
then
great.
Professor Brian, he taught me too.
Professor Brown.
He
E.S.
was
Brown.
Yes.
His name was Elliot. Was his name Elliot Brown? Elliot something? Do you know what the first? I know we always say E.S.
E.S. Brown.
We always call him Professor Brian.
Well, you weren't supposed to call them anything other than their names when we were in school. First names, you just didn't deal with that with the teachers. What other principal do you remember?
That's the only one
That was the only one you had.
that was it.
Okay, what about his lunch? I know we were talking out.
I said
there.
we talked about because he brought his own lunch, and it kind of smelled funny. But when I got older, I realized now that he warmed it up in a heater, and he would. He was so busy going from this to that, and he would leave it, and I said it would be kind of burnt. That's what we were smelling. But we didn't, as kids, the children, we didn't realize what that was.
Right, you just smell something strange.
We just smelled something
And-
strange when he would, warm up his lunch.
Right. So he didn't eat lunch in the cafeteria?
He didn't eat lunch in the cafeteria, no.
Okay. Glenda, do you remember any other principals other than E.S. Brown?
We had Mildred Davis.
Okay.
We had Miss Davis as our principal, and that's the only one we had.
Really? So do either one of you remember Mr. Purdue, Professor Purdue? As your
Yes. Oh, not as my principal,
Not
just
as
as
a principal, remember.
just as a good man, good
Okay,
person.
so
He was into everything. He was really, I knew him
As
It
a
was.
person, but not as a principal?
as a principal,
Okay,
but
how
I knew him
many?
as a
Okay.
person.
Okay, so you just remember one particular principal
Mm-hmm.
out of 6, and you remember one. That's interesting. Let's go to school. What happened at school when you got to school? Take me through a school day at Fairview. I know
Oh.
yours probably was a little bit different from hers, so.
We
take me-
walked to school,
Okay.
and we
Walked
would,
from, where did you have, how many miles
From
did you have to
home.
walk?
it's about 3 miles.
3
Oh
months.
my, 3 miles, okay.
Until we, got a bus, and then
Right.
we started riding the bus.
Okay, so where in this area did you live? Where did you all live, where did you all grow up in this area?
Lions Bridge Road.
On Lions Bridge?
Mhm,
Okay.
mhm.
All right, want to finish what a school day was like for you when you
What
got
would y'all
there?
do the first thing in the morning when you got to school?
We'd have prayer and the bus.
You prayed first. Now you ate breakfast before you left home. Did everybody eat
We
breakfast
ate,
before?
we ate breakfast before we left, home.
Okay.
And then when the we went to the first building. When we was in this building, they fixed lunch and dinner.
Oh, okay.
Okay. I
Okay.
didn't know that.
So So you didn't experience that.
I didn't experience that. But our day at East Brown started out with, of course, everybody went to their classroom, and then we had devotion. We would say a prayer, sing a song, do a scripture, and that's how we started our day. We started our day by giving thanks to the Lord, praising Him for being there. And then, after we had our little devotion, then we went into our different studies, reading, the math. And then
Would you have all of these classes in the same room?
Yes.
You had math and all that in the same room?
We had one teacher who taught everything.
Okay.
And it was that way all the way through East Brown. Now, there were some combination classes, like maybe a few fourth graders might have been in with some fifth graders.
Okay.
But yeah. And, we had lunch. We ate lunch there in the cafeteria. One thing I remember about the
Okay, now
cafeteria.
we're talking E.S. Brown.
East Brown, yes.
Okay, so we.
So East Brown
So
had,
here, let me find out, where
Okay.
did you all eat lunch?
We-
Here, outside on the yard? In the
No,
yard?
we ate it. We had a kitchen. When they built the second building, we had a dining room, a kitchen, and dining room, and that's where we ate lunch at.
Okay, and that was in the big building that was there?
No, it wasn't in the building. This building.
it was in this
It was in
building.
this building. So you ate out of that room back there?
No, this is the room.
This is the room.
This is the
You ate-
room. This was the cafeteria.
So everybody came up here and ate.
Okay. All right. I know you don't know this, but I'm trying to think of how many students did you have in Fairview at any one time?
Oh.
And I guess they would decide who would come eat.
That's the way they did. Who would come and eat?
Uh-huh,
Different
just-
one would come and eat.
Yeah, just like maybe the first grade class, and then on and on and on.
And then some of the girls would, help clean up, help, fix that and wash the dishes. And
What was a typical lunch like? What did you have?
we had
I just heard so many people talking about sloppy joes, and I didn't know if sloppy joes.
Jones was that's most of what we had, like ham, hot dogs or something.
Okay.
Do you remember the lunchroom lady? Who was your lunchroom cook?
I tried to remember her, but I don't remember.
Was it more than one person in
No,
there?
it was one person, but then she gets up in the high school
Somebody would help.
would
Okay.
help.
And see, that's how they did at
Yes,
East Brown. We only had one lady doing all the cooking, and the older girls some of them were chosen to help with the food.
I'm going to ask you this, and then we're going to stop for a minute. How did integration affect school in this area?
I would say that being in a small city like Cave Spring, there were problems, but maybe not as many major problems. I know that when I went down to Cave Spring School after leaving East Brown, I don't remember us having problems, but the students who attended there first, now I heard that there were a lot of problems then.
Okay. Now, Cave Spring School, it was just Cave Spring School. It was elementary and high school all combined,
Yes,
wasn't
yes, it was
Okay.
all combined.
Okay.
After I call it fully enforced integration, they closed East Brown. That was the year that Joyce and I were supposed to go to Main High. We had talked about it forever. We wanted to go to Main High. And I get so depressed. The school at Cave Spring, it offered us a lot. And I was telling someone that we had the best counselor, Gary Willis, I think that was his name. And he helped the minority students. I'm not sure if I would have even considered being able to go to college if it would not have been for Mr. Willis. He talked to me, he helped me do all the paperwork, and he was just a good man.
Okay, I think we left off with the educational life down at the consolidated school after everything integrated. Maybe tell a little bit more about the things that happened in Cave Spring, the opportunities we had at the school itself, and a favorite teacher.
Okay, you want me?
Yeah.
Okay. I think my favorite teacher at the Cave Spring High School, and I know Marguerite Parrish went to the high school with us, and remember, and we had opportunities available down there. I think that was the year the government had started that JTPA or some kind of program where it would help students whose parents may not have been as fortunate as other parents, to help them, to make money to pay for school expenses. I was lucky because I did get one of those jobs. I worked during the school day, and then I worked during the summer, and it helped me a lot. It paid for everything I needed towards school. But I'm trying to think opportunities.
What, maybe I should ask, I can put it in another fashion. What happened to you when you got to 12th grade and it was time to graduate and your opportunity to go to college? Share that experience. What happened?
When I was in the 12th grade, and I think everybody who's ever been in the 12th grade can relate. You feel like you know everything there is to know. Nobody can tell you anything. And when it was time to make that decision whether to go to college or not, I was scared, the unknown. But I knew that I wanted to be a teacher, And so I conquered my fears, I think, and I was able to go. But let me say this, we had the best principal also at Cave Spring High School, and I think maybe by Mr. Toulouse not being from this area, he was able to be more objective concerning certain things, because I never will forget when Clemmy Bray and Eleanor Sams left from Main High their last year and they had to come to Cave Spring School. Those girls were super smart. And what Mr. Toulouse did, because those girls were going to be the valedictorian, salutatorian at Main High School, he knew it was not fair for them to lose that honor. So when they came to Cave Spring High School, they received those same honors. And I think that was the only time they had 2 of each one. But Mr. Toulouse, he was, I tell you, we had a lot of good people at the school, and then there were some who were not so, and just like we all have to be ready to adapt to changes. And I think when I look back over my school years, there were some teachers who didn't want to adapt. And, when we went down there, we knew that they didn't want us there, but we still persevered, because the foundation that we got from E.S. Brown, you're going to be somebody. Right. You got to work hard at it, and that encouraged so many of us to, whatever we were facing, just to let it roll off our back and continue.
What career path did you take?
Okay, Edna, you want to tell first what?
I worked for Open Door Home for 27 years.
And Open Door Home is a
A place for children that don't have, the parents can't take care of abused and neglected children.
so she
And it's in Rome,
That is
still in
wonderful.
Rome.
That is wonderful. You worked with them in the church after you retired at what, 40-some years?
I retired from it.
Retired. That is wonderful. That is wonderful. Serving the community.
And of course, I retired from Rome City Schools after working 32 years there as a special educator. I spent 28 of those 32 years at an elementary school. My last 5 years, I decided I wanted to see what life was like after elementary school for my students. And so I was able to transfer to the middle school, and that's where I retired from. I found out I love working with middle schoolers. You don't get the hugs and all, but you do get that conversation, you know. So that was good.
Okay, if I might ask, so how has your career path in the workforce transcended into your retirement? How are you using your retirement now? Are you just complacent watching TV? When you first left, actually.
No, not at all complacent. I was talking to Edna and we were saying, you know, we just can't do nothing, just sit in the house. So I am involved with different organizations. I'm a mentor to a group of high school girls. So I do find things, you know, to keep me busy. I have 2 grandchildren. One, my young man, he's involved in sports and everything. So I'm usually going to see whatever season, whatever sport it is. I try to support him.
Right.
And also, no, life is not boring. It's not dull. My sister, what do you do after retirement? Sit at home?
I don't sit at home all the time. I just do things and just relax. And, you know, whenever I want to go somewhere, I go. You know, just whatever I want to do, I do it.
That is wonderful.
And she does keep busy. And she makes the best red velvet cake and sweet potato pies.
Oh, that sounds delicious. That sounds delicious. Okay. Tell us a little bit about your children, your family, and what they're doing now.
I have one daughter, Jennifer. I did have 2. My baby girl is deceased, Blair. But Jennifer chose to follow in her mama's footsteps, sort of. But she was more motivated. Jennifer works for Rome City Schools. She's been there for 27 years. She started out being a high school teacher. Then she wanted to try something new. So she was in pharmaceutical sales for about 6 months. Then she came back to teaching. That teaching had that strong pull on it, you know, even though she tried to go and do something else, it just wasn't the same. And so after she came back to Rome City, a couple of years later, she became a principal. And now Jennifer is working at the central office, and she has a position as one of the directors. I want to say director of secondary education. So I'm very proud of Jennifer, and her grandmama would be thrilled to see her continuing, I want to say, our legacy.
That is so true. That is so true. And anything you'd like to share your children, anything of that sort?
Well, I had a daughter and my son. My son died 4 years ago. And I have and my daughter, she's retired from, anyway, she was a supervisor and she is retired.
Wonderful.
And I got grandkids and great-grandkids, and they keep me busy. They's on the going all the time.
And let me,
I'm sorry, go ahead. So, and you know, I just do things with them, but they busy.
okay. And I was gonna say her son retired from the U.S. Army. After he retired, he went back to school, got his degree, and he was working in the retail market, and he passed. I know. And her daughter worked in the mental health field, and she retired from the mental health field as a supervisor. So, you know, we know how important education is, and the importance of education started right here, Fairview. Fairview, you know, because Fairview has turned out so many wonderful people, you know, grandchildren, children, and of course our wonderful Joyce right here, which this project would not be at all possible. And it's just so much history down here. And I find out every time I come, I'm looking, okay, what was right there? What was right there?